Welcome, sports fans. It's Kenny Mayne here reporting from my couch.
Whoa,
Whoa.
hang on here, Kenny. This is our show.
I know you're used to hosting
Come
things,
on.
my man, but let us handle this, yo. It's
Go
your boy
ahead.
Scott Proctor, joined as always by Matt Morris, and we're back with another episode of Simple Question. But this time we'll have more than one because we got a special guest joining us today for the very first time. Spent 27 years as an ESPN anchor, now hosts the Hey Mayne podcast, and is a brand ambassador, content contributor for Caesar Sportsbook. Like you heard at the top, it's Kenny Mayne. Kenny, thanks so much for joining us, my man. How are you doing?
I'm here to play whatever role you want. I'm here.
We love to hear it,
Hey.
man. I want to start here, Kenny, because as a former collegiate quarterback myself, I was damn near shocked to find out that you played quarterback at UNLV in the early 80s, even playing over one true freshman, Randall Cunningham. Kenny, what was that experience like, and why didn't you become one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in the NFL?
Probably talent would be the answer. Also, I had a ruined ankle. That didn't help me. But so I broke my leg pretty bad my junior year. So when I came out of high school, I was like the honorable mention guy in my league, right? I wasn't the superstar, but I wasn't terrible. But I was way undersized. I was like my sophomore year, we were like 10, 11, 12 in my area. I was 5'8", 130 pounds or something, like people looking like, what the hell are you doing here? And then the next year I was 6'2", 130 pounds, maybe. No, I grew a little bit. But so I was like, eating honey sandwiches and lifting weights and trying to get bigger, and ultimately made it through high school starting there and walked on at Washington. Then I walked off because it just didn't seem promising. The kid they had on scholarship, I thought I was better than, but I wasn't going to get any reps. So I went to junior college, a place called Wenatchee Valley Community College in the middle of the state of Washington. That's where you get your apples.
Right.
And then from there, walked on at UNLV. I had some other offers, but I just something about Coach Knapp, the system, the town. I felt at home there. Walked on, got a scholarship, but I never played that much. I was second string, redshirt, then I was second string, broke my leg, came back second string again. The kid who played ahead of me named Sam King led the nation in passing yards. And the kid behind us was, like you said, Randall Cunningham, who we knew was going to be great. He just needed a little minute to get adjusted.
Good thing he had you ahead of him to kind of teach him the ropes, right?
Well, it's funny when people hear, obviously you would think, oh, he backed up Randall, but Sam was the starter. I was second. Alan Reynolds was third. I think Randall might have ended up redshirting that year. I don't even remember precisely, but he wasn't going to play right away. I mean, he could have, but they didn't need him to because, Sam was pretty damn good.
Definitely.
Kenny, we all know how great you were on ESPN and all the funny stuff that you guys did and all the reporting you did. So I guess my question for you is how did you kind of become one of the funny guys on ESPN? Was it just something that they approached you with, or did you want to add that to your reporting and everything? Like, how did that come about and become one of the funnier guys that we've seen in sports?
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't even want to do sports going way back. At UNLV, I majored in broadcasting and I had some political science, journalism. I was like trying to be Ken Burns. I was trying to do like serious journalism, do documentaries and so forth. So when I finally got on the air in Seattle, it took a couple of years of being a production assistant and a producer. Then I finally moved up. I started out doing news reporting. I was like Monday through Friday, the guy going out doing serious news, Then the station I worked for only had Monday through Friday. We always said if there's news on the weekends, it's news to us. That was our motto. But they added a weekend show, and the news director was like, you play football, you're doing sports. And I honestly didn't want to at first. I was like, this isn't where I wanted to go. I've already done my sports. Now I want to get serious and do this journalism. But starting to cover the Seahawks and the Mariners, the Husky games, and Sonics, like it just kind of became more attractive. And I think I was doing something similar to what you saw me do on SportsCenter back at that station, just not as polished, right? Didn't have the resources. I wasn't as good, hadn't done it as much. I was nervous, just trying to feel it out. So I think over time it just kind of happened. But as far as the stories you were talking about, I think it all started with, I think it was 2001, and they sent me and a guy named Tom McCollum. It was a big project. We were going to go to 5 different cities in 5 days for opening week of baseball. And each city we would, do something kind of light, something fun, but still promote, the games that are coming up. And I think it was like day 2, it hit us with, these will be funnier if we just tell people what to say. If we don't try to hope they're funny, but write a script and have them be our actors. And it was really just kind of born from that. I started doing that for the NFL. Like we would write a script. Tom Brady, here's your line. Randy Moss, here's your line. Whoever we were working with.
Yeah.
And I think all that just developed from that. As far as the Sports Center, I was just, trying to be me, trying to be natural and not screw up the show, get the highlight right, and have fun as you did it.
Yeah, it paid off. It paid off. You turned into one of the greatest ever. Do it, Kenny. That's awesome stuff for sure. I'm curious, where does Jerry Seinfeld, who's just a legend, one of my favorite comedians of all time, where does him calling you his favorite TV personality years back rank among compliments you kind of received, over the years from celebrities and people you might have worked with or around?
It's behind the fact that Stevie Wonder's band members knew who I was. That's the pinnacle.
That's huge.
And then everything, descends from there. But no, I remember that. Somebody pointed it out to me. I can't remember who told me. They took a picture of it and sent it. Oh my gosh, did you see this? Jerry was interviewed. I can't remember what magazine. It was like a Hollywood Reporter or a magazine like that. I can't remember which one. Yeah. And out of nowhere, he, gave me a really nice compliment. So, that's a high honor. Very funny guy. I tried to work with him remember when the Mets and Yankees played in the World Series, and we were trying to get Jerry to be in on a bit with us about his love of the Mets and about this World Series thing. And somehow I got a hold of him. I don't know if it was his number or his manager's number, but in any case, we thought we had a deal, but then they went down 0-2, and he leaves me this elaborate message about he's just too depressed. I can't go on with comedy when my teams lose. It was a very funny message. So we then called back and said, hey, can we just use his message and make that part of the story that I'm ultimately going to do? And he said yes, and we ended up getting to run that. But otherwise, I've only seen him on stage.
That's classic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you talked about how you started writing scripts for a lot of these guys in the NFL and the MLB and the guys you do these skits with. But were there any of them where you didn't have to write the scripts and they were just naturally funny? Like, who was the most naturally funny out of the guys you've done work with?
Oh, there were a bunch. Jared Allen would probably be right up there. He just kind of knew what to do. Like, oftentimes, you only had so much time. And sometimes we were handcuffed by, fine, we'll do the story, but you got to do it during locker room time. And you guys know how that is. There's 80 people in there, and there's noise, and people are playing music, and it's not exactly conducive to doing a good piece of comedy. You're just trying to get a quick line. So sometimes we were kind of handcuffed by the circumstances. Certain guys got it right away, like, hey, here's what the joke's going to be, and they buy in, come up with their own stuff. Oh, Josh Sitton and TJ Lang at Green Bay, very funny. We did one with them, one of my favorites actually, where the premise was that they felt they were getting shortchanged, that all the big stars were getting all the big commercial money, and they had to settle for like a local car dealership. And we asked the dealer, hey, can we bang on the car once with a sledgehammer? It's going to be kind of a part of the joke about, this car's got to get off the lot or whatever the premise was. And he's like, yeah, fine. And these guys went wild. I mean, they apparently didn't really worry about damages to the car, but it sure made the scene funnier. But yeah, there were all sorts of people who were better than expected sometimes. And some teams were better than expected. I had no idea New England would be such a good source for us. New England was one of our go-tos, and it was great because it was like a home game for us. We were in Connecticut, drive there and back in one day, didn't even have to go on the road really. And Belichick would be okay with it. We had one where, I don't know if you remember, Tom Brady was always on the injury list. I think the league had reprimanded Belichick for not reporting injuries appropriately. So he's like, fine, everybody's injured. He'd list, this long, right? And Brady was always on the injury list, probable shoulder, right? Uh-huh. So they were playing Dallas, I believe it was, like a big midseason game, I think. And I got into his press conference, and first question, raised my hand and said, will 12 see action this week, coach? And he's like, Brady, check the injury report. So, and we didn't tell him to say that. He knew something that we were going to do some dumb story again. He just kind of, was a quick-witted guy. He knew what to do. So Green Bay was always good to us. Minnesota was always good. Seattle, where I'm from and had a relationship with. Coach Holmgren in particular was good. So there were a whole bunch of people. Matt Hasselbeck, very good. Talented actor.
That's hilarious.
I like it. New England as a comedic gold mine. I love that.
Yeah, we did one with Brady and Bieber. Justin Bieber. And I remember Brady had super long hair for a short period of time, for a year or two.
Yeah, he did.
And I don't know how it came up. Let's figure out a way to marry Brady and Bieber in the same story and pretend Bieber's pissed that Brady's stealing his look. Got a hold of Scooter Braun, who's Bieber's manager. He heard, is like, that's funny. Can you come out to California? He's like, sure. So we shoot Brady one day. I fly to California another day. We got Bieber, who's like 14 or 15 at the time.
Wow.
And found a way to put them. If you Google Brady Bieber Mayne, you'll see that story.
That's hilarious. I'm definitely going to do a quick Google
yeah.
search after this is over on that one. That's classic stuff, man. Kenny, I'm curious how cool it was for you to throw out the ceremonial first pitch at a Seattle Mariners game in 2019 back in your home state. And how's that quest for 75 coming?
My arm might be gone for that. I can still throw a football, but baseball is so different. It's a different motion. I've not trained for it. What I told them last time is next time I do it, I want to throw from right field because I can get it to home plate or at least on a bounce. I think that'll be more impressive than just throwing some generic ball or something from the hill. But it's funny I've done it more than one. Get out there, you really do get nervous. No matter if the crowd's 10,000 or 40,000, you're like all alone. And everybody's don't bounce it. Everybody's giving you negative advice. Nobody ever says, hey, have a good pitch. It's always don't bounce it. Don't throw it over. I'd rather throw it over the catcher's head, show that you got it there than bounce it. Bounce it's, that's a sin. I've been halfway accurate, not terrible. Like I'm not embarrassed with the numbers. What happened on the 75 you referred to is I was told I was invited to do it. And I was telling my friends at work, hey, I'm going to Seattle next week. I'm throwing the pitch, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And one of the guys, Derek Kamagan, one of the producers, like, how fast do you think you'll throw? And I just said, I don't know, 75. Like I just made up a number, figured I could be in the 70s and hadn't been shot on a gun, in my life. I don't think, like, I have no idea what I can throw. I know I can still throw a football hard, but you don't really measure the speed of a football throw. It doesn't, just get it there.
Yep. So
I ended up training with these guys in Seattle at Driveline. They train a lot of the big pros, right? It's like a key place in Kent where I'm from. And looking back, I'm wondering if it was a practical joke, if they put me through some drills just to mess with me, because I'm doing like band work and heavy balls. Like, no, guys, I already have an okay arm. Just tell me how to get my leg up and how to load and how to release. I need that stuff. And then they did a great job teaching me. But when I got to do it, I gave it all up and I just did a short step football throw. Like I went back to what I know. And I think I hit 68, 69. The next year I was 72. But we shot that in Hartford remotely, and during COVID, and we put it on the big screen there. Mm-hmm. And then I did it again. I've done it 3 or 4 times, I think. So hopefully, I get another shot.
Definitely,
I think you will. And I like the idea of the inaugural outfield toss to home to beat the runner. That sounds like it should be something that happens now. Yeah,
put on an Ichiro 51 and just bring it home.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna stand on the track. I'll come in a couple steps, but it's 330 or 3 whatever their rate field is. I forget. We're talking about a little over 100 yards total, or a little less if you take a few steps up. So you got to get the ball like 80 in the air and a 20-yard bounce and make a good play at the plate.
Yeah, and didn't you make that throw in an all-star game, a softball all-star game one time?
Yes, it was left center. It was Justin Tuck.
Ooh, Super Bowl champ Justin Tuck.
He was on second base. Next time I saw him, I brought it up. He said, I knew you were going to bring that up. He probably wasn't going all out, but he thought he was going to make it easy. Yeah, that was fun. That was, I can't remember was that in New York? I can't remember where it was. Must have been New York, I'm guessing. And I also got tagged out by Chris Rock. I was under his tag and he admits it, but they called it out. I also almost killed Whoopi Goldberg. I threw a ball into second base as hard as I've ever thrown a ball, I think. And right as I released, I was like, oh, shit. Because I told her ahead of time, I said, don't take the throws. Let Billy Crystal take the throws. He was something of an athlete out there. And Whoopi's just like going like this. Like, yeah, that could have been bad.
What took her head off?
Yeah. And, Kenny, we've talked about how long you've been doing this and, you've had so much success, a lot of fun stuff. For you, what was that moment where you kind of took a second and realized, like, wow, I'm getting paid to do this. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, I do it for free, but I'm getting paid to to do what I'm doing?
Honestly, it was pretty early. I mean, I worked hard to get there way back when I was doing the local news and sports. I would do 2 days of news reporting or 3, and then I do weekend sports. And it was the Super Bowl. You guys probably weren't even born. It was Joe Montana to John Taylor. The Niners beat the Bengals. It was 1989. I just remember having like a really good show. It would like stand up today, I think. I mean, I'm sure my voice was higher and all that, but covered the game well, had a good highlight. I was like, that was pretty good. Let's see if ESPN thinks anything of it. And I just literally copied off that 5 minutes or whatever it was, sent it to ESPN. And strangely, they called back literally like the next day. Like whenever they got it, they called that day or the next day and said, send us another tape. We want to see if that was a fluke. So, they liked what they saw, but let's see what this guy's about. Send them another one. And then I chased them aggressively. Like they would have me interview people in Seattle as a freelancer. And I would kind of like for extra credit, go home and type out, a few paragraphs. Here's the story you could have had if you wanted a full field report, right? And I just showed a lot of initiative, probably crossed the line into obnoxiousness a few times, but didn't really care because if one guy turned me down, wouldn't take my calls, I'd call a different office. There were several bosses. Some of them liked me. Some of them weren't sure. Finally, years later, when they added ESPN2, Keith Olbermann left ESPN2, went back to Dan Patrick on 1. Stuart Scott moved up to be next to Susie Colbert as the lead anchor. They needed one more guy, and somehow that was me. So it wasn't too long after that where we were having a lot of fun doing this silly thing that we do, making up ridiculous things to say over dunks and home runs. And, it really was fun. But it's also work. It's not as much fun as it looks and as much fun as we did have. You're putting in some long hours. Sometimes you're not getting home till 3 a.m. And so, there was some drudgery with the fun. But, all in all, I had a good time.
Had to show him Kenny Mayne ain't no fluke. That's awesome stuff. That's a classic story for sure. No doubt about it. That's going to do it for us, though, for this episode of Simple Question. Everybody out there, make sure you go check out the Hey Mayne podcast. But for your boy, Scott Proctor, Matt Morris, and the great Kenny Mayne, catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out our other videos and don't forget to smack that subscribe button down below while you're at it. Also, for more great and original content, head right over to bvmsports.com.